guys, today we have an updated build from a while ago. This is a tank that is all about generating ultimate with these sets that had come out from a few DLCs ago that has made this even stronger. Check this out. So guys, this build has gotten stronger since the last time I had made a video on this. It has gotten to the point where it is able to keep major vulnerability up 79% of the time, and you will be popping your ultimate basically every 20 seconds, every 25 seconds. It depends on your ultimate. For this one, we're spamming the Glacial Colossus, which is 175 ultimate. There's also a different few ways you can set this up if you would like. For the background footage that we're going over right now, the footage is sped up just so you can see the sheer amount of thumbs that we are putting out. Like I said before, this is about once every 20 seconds on average. So we are hitting that thing quite often. And this is on a boss that does add in a few adds every now and then, which does help with our ulti gen as we are a necromancer. But first, let's get into the build. So first up on our front bar, we are using Drake Rush. This is a set that drops from Black Drake Vila. You can do this on normal or vet. So Drake's Rush gives you line of max health, 2 lines of stam, and then when you bash an enemy, you and up to 3 group members within 15 meters gain major heroism for 12 seconds, giving us 3 ultimate every second and a half. Now this can only occur once every 18 seconds. So we'll get to the math later as far as what other options you do have as far as gaining ulti. We are currently using an axe and shield on the front bar. The axe has an absorb magicka enchant and it is decisive to help us get more ultimate. As far as the shield, we are just using divines of max stamina. And then on the back bar, we are using an infused crusher enchant ice staff. And then we are using the rest of the set on the jewelry. We are doing all infused, and for the 2 runes we are using alchemical acceleration, and we are using a mag recovery on the necklace. The alchemical acceleration is for the second set, which is Arkasis Genius. This comes from Stone Garden. This was the DLC that had dropped quite a while ago, but it hadn't came out at the time when I had released my video. Now this will give you 2 lines of max health and a line of max armor, and then whenever you drink a potion while you're in combat, which is very important, you and 3 group members gain 44 ultimate, and this can occur every 30 seconds. So we're using this all across the body. We are using divines on the small pieces and infused on the big pieces, and then we are using the prismatic enchant on all of this. You don't have to use that. You could just do max health to get your health going. This just helps you get rounded out. If you do only want to do a few prismatic, I would only do it on the big pieces with infused. Don't waste it on the smaller pieces if you're trying to save money. Now notice Drake's Rush and Arkasis does affect your group members. So just from those 2 sets, we are allowing our group members to gain ultimate as well. So there will be ultimates just going ham. However, as a necromancer tank, we do have some extra stuff for us to gain even more. Now, this is why we're using 2 lines of the alchemical acceleration. This will allow us to make our potions be on a 29.5 second cooldown. Now, the issue with that is you do not want to proc it too early. During my combat testing, I did accidentally proc it right when it was available, like I'm used to. And that actually doesn't let Arkasis fire off, because technically the potions are 1 second faster than Arkasis is. And if you proc that early, you're gonna have to wait another 29 seconds for your potion to re-proc. So when your potion is ready, just wait 2 seconds and then proc it. Now, because our potions are going off much faster, we do gain resources quite often, so it is very easy to sustain on this build. And then for our monster set, we are using Bloodspawn. This comes from Spindle Clutch 2. This allows us to gain stam recovery, and then when we take damage, we have a 6% chance to generate 13 ultimate and increase our resistances by 3700 for 5 seconds every 5 seconds. We are using heavy for both of these pieces, and the helmet's infused. The pauldron is divines, once again prismatic enchant. So if you're the tank, this should be proccing quite often, so you shouldn't have any problem there. The main thing I would recommend if you want to swap something out, if you don't have access, You could go for Akaviri Dragon Guard. This will reduce the cost of your ultimate by 15%. Or you could do Saxiel's Champion. This would really help your group even further. This will gain major force for every 15 ultimate spent. If you're using your Colossus Thumb, you'll basically give everyone major force for about 11 seconds, so it is very helpful there. So for our stats, we are looking at 64 attributes into health. We are very healthy, and you will stay healthy too if you like and subscribe. So next up, we are using 19.5k mag and 45k health and 24k stam. Now this is unbuffed. We are looking at 1300 mag recovery, 1100 health, and 700 stam recovery. And then as far as our resistances unbuffed, we're looking at 24.8k. Now if we buff up here, our recoveries do increase. We get about 2k there, 17k, and 12k. And then for our resistances, we are just under cap. We're at 30.8k. You do want to be about 32k. However, our Bloodspawn does give us an extra 3700. So if that is active, we are good. And if a healer is giving us minor resolve, then we are getting some extra there. And then guys, for the Mundus Stone, we are using the Atronach. Now for our consumables, for our main potion, we are using the Tri-Stat potion. You could just use any potion you want. That does not matter to Arkasis. We are just hitting the potions to proc Arkasis. You will be going through them quite a bit, so just be aware of that. You might want to keep all the trash potions that you get from dungeons, and if you aren't really needing resources, just proc those instead. Now for the food during testing, I was using Bewitched Sugar Skulls. This will give you a little over 4k of all resources and 460 health recovery. If you don't need the health recovery, but you do need more resource sustained, you could use Jewels of Misrule. This will give you stam and mag recovery, and it'll let you keep about 4k health. Now for the skills, first up in the sword and board line, we are using Heroic Slash. This will apply minor maim to the target, and it will give us minor heroism, so that will help us gain even more ultimate. Next up, from the Bone Tyrant line, we are using Necrotic Potency. This is another ulti-gen skill. Every time there's a corpse near you, which can be generated by many things. Corpse looks like this on the ground here, glowing. If it's generated by you, it only lasts for a little bit of time. If it's an actual dead enemy, then it will last for quite a while. So this skill makes it so that way you gain 6 ultimate and heal for 2k health every second for 2 seconds. The heal is based on your max health, and while this is slotted, you reduce your damage taken by 3%. Now a thing to note about this is it does have a limit in terms of the heal. So if you are using this for the heal, it does actually stack. This does have a maximum amount of enemies that you can suck at one time. So if you hit this, and let's say there's 20 enemies out there, you will only suck 6 at a time. So you will still gain your 36 ultimate, and that heal will actually extend the duration per person that you have taken their soul from. So you will get 12 seconds of healing. If you hit this again, let's say there was only 7 enemies out there. So you hit it the first time, you got 6 enemies, that means you got 12 seconds of healing. If you hit it again, it deletes your old timer and replaces it with a new timer based on the next time you have hit it. So if you are using it for the heal, only hit it once if you have a lot of enemies dying. But if you're using it for the ultimate, just spam the crap out of that, and that's how I personally use it. And that is because our next skill from the same line, Bone Tyrant, we have the Ruinous Scythe. This is a stam-based skill, and it applies an AoE that will apply the hemorrhaging status effect and set the enemies off balance for 7 seconds. And will also heal for a massive amount, and will heal for an additional amount up to 5 times per each enemy hit, and this scales off of your max health. This ends up hitting really hard for me, so I just use this to stay alive. Next up, from the Fighters Guild line, we are using Silver Leash. We use this to pull in the enemies, and it will automatically taunt them if they're not already taunted. It will also reduce their movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds. Next up, from the Sword and Board line, we are using Pierce Armor. This is your main taunt that will also apply major and minor breach to the enemies, reducing their resistances by quite a lot for 15 seconds. For our front bar main ultimate, we are using Glacial Colossus. This is from the Gravelord skill line, and when you hit this, the Colossus will smash the ground 3 times. It'll deal a decent amount of damage. We're a tank, that's not super important. The final smash stuns all enemies hit for 4 seconds, and it will apply major vulnerability to any enemy hit for 17 seconds, which increases their damage taken by 10%. So this is our main ultimate. Like I said, if you're using sack seals, this will really help even more when you hit this, but just remember you will be not putting out as many ultimates as this build will. On our back bar from the Living Death tree, we are using Spirit Guardian. This doesn't do great heals because it's based on actual healing stats, and we're a tank, so those aren't good, but it will give us 10% damage mitigation as long as it is alive. Now this also creates a corpse on death, which will allow us to suck in more souls. Now be careful, this is a criminal act. You don't want to do this in public. Next up, we got Wall of Elements. We are using an ice staff, so it's Blockade of Frost for me. When you hit this, it will apply a damage shield for you and nearby allies that absorbs projectiles, and then chilled enemies are afflicted with minor breach and their movement speed is reduced by 40%. Next up, from the Bone Tyrant line, we are using Beckoning Armor. This is our major resolve skill. This will help us gain more resistances, and while this is active, it will also pull in any ranged people that hit me every 2 seconds. They also become taunted if they're not already taunted, and this creates a corpse when it is finished. Now, a thing about both the armor and your spirit mage is you don't have to wait for them to actually fall off. You can proc it early as long as it is halfway through the cooldown. So the mage is about 16 seconds, the armor is 20 seconds. So at 8 and 10 seconds, both of them will actually drop it early, which will allow you to get to thumbing your enemies. Next up, from the Bone Tyrant line, we are using Agony Totem. This will give you and your allies minor protection when you are standing within the circle, which reduces your damage taken by 5%. And then after 2 seconds, this will also fear nearby enemies every 2 seconds. And then allies can also create a synergy, which will apply minor vulnerability to all the enemies within the circle as well. And lastly, from the Graveward line, we are using Unnerving Boneyard. This does a little bit of damage, but the main use is it is a AoE major breach, so anyone within this is going to be getting hit quite often. Now it can consume a corpse to deal more damage. That is the sucky thing. It will be taking some corpses from you since we're not focused on dealing damage. That is less ultimate. However, it's not a super big deal, especially if you only are fighting a boss. And allies can synergize to do some extra damage and heal for the damage done. Now, if you're not using Saxaleals, and let's say someone already has major vulnerability on the boss, you could also use Aggressive Horn. This is from the Assault line. When you hit this, you and your group will gain max mag and stam increase by 10% for 30 seconds, and everyone gains major force for 10 seconds. But that is at 250 ultimate. At that point, it might be better to just swap on Saxaleal if you do have it and start spamming out your Glacial Colossus. If there's any skills you want to swap out, you could do Ghostly Embrace. This will apply snares, immobilizations, and stuns in 3 different areas, and it will apply minor maim to everyone that is hit for 15 seconds. If you do want a purge, you could do Expunge and Modify to gain more resources when you purge for 2 effects, or Hexproof to make it so you can remove 4 negative effects. If you don't want the Beckoning Armor, you could also do Balance, which costs health, and it will give you magicka in return if you are having trouble. And lastly, you could do Overflowing Altar, but that is a named debuff that is applied, so if someone else is already using an altar, don't bother with it. Now for the CP, in the blue CP, we are using Ironclad to reduce your damage taken by direct damage by 6%. Unassailable to reduce damage taken by AoEs, Enduring Resolve to reduce damage taken by DOTs, and then Duelist Rebuff to reduce damage taken by single targets. In the red tree, we're using Rejuvenation for all recoveries. We're using Fortified for more armor, Boundless Vitality for more health, and then Slippery so you automatically break free once every 21 seconds. Now for the passes, I'm just going to go over the passes that really affect this build. You will want to get all passes when they are available to you. In Gravelord, you will want to get reusable parts. This will reduce the cost of your Spirit Mender by 50% every time it dies. In Bone Tyrant, you will want to get Death Gleaning. This will make it so you gain resources whenever an enemy you're in combat with dies within 28 meters of you, and you just need to have one of these skills slotted, which we do on both bars. Disdain Harm will reduce the damage taken you take from DOTs by an additional 15% while you have a Bone Tyrant ability active, which our Beckoning Armor will do. Same with Necrotic Potency as well. Health Avarice will increase your healing received, and Last Grasp will increase your max health. In Living Death, Curative Curse will give you extra healing done if you have a negative effect on you. Corpse Consumption is going to be great. When you use an ability on a corpse, you generate an additional 10 ultimate every 16 seconds. And then Undead Confederate, as long as you have a minion active, you will gain 200 extra recoveries. In the Sword and Shield line, you will want Fortress. This will reduce the cost of your Sword and Shield abilities and reduce the cost of blocking. Sword and Board will increase the amount of damage you can block. Deadly Bash will reduce the cost of your bashing. Deflect Bolts will increase the amount of damage you can block from ranged attacks, and Battlefield Mobility will make it so you're not as slow when you do block. In the Destra Staff line, we are using Trifocus. This will make it so if you heavy attack with an Ice Staff, you gain a massive shield that is scales off of your max health. This also makes it so while your Ice Staff is equipped, blocking costs magicka instead of stamina, so if you are running low on your stamina, you could block cast on that bar. Elemental Force will give us a higher chance to apply status effects, and Ancient Knowledge will make it so our blocking is reduced by 36% and increase the amount of damage we can block. And if you do happen to kill someone, Destruction Expert will give you some extra magicka back. Now, because we are using all heavy armor, you will want to get all of these passes. Resolve gives you way more resistances, Constitution gives you health recovery and gives you resources when you take damage. Juggernaut increases your max health. Revitalize is going to be amazing for sustain. Every time you heavy attack, you're going to be doing 28% extra resource return. And then Rapid Mending increases your healing received. In the Undaunted line, Undaunted Command will give you extra resources when you synergize, and Undaunted Metal will increase your max pools. Now, we are a Nord. With Resist Frost, we'll gain more health and Frost Resist, but Stalwart's the big one. We gain more stam and we gain more ultimate every time we take damage every 10 seconds. And then Rugged increases our resistances further. In the Alchemy line, medicinal use is technically optional with this build. Since we do make our potions proc earlier, you actually already have overlap with the timer, so this isn't going to be benefiting you. If you aren't using those enchants, then medicinal use will help you keep your resource buffs up. So the setup is quite easy. On the back bar, you want to keep all of your buffs up. Your armor and your spirit mage go around with you, so you can proc those before the fight. Since the graveyard is ranged, I'll run into a group and throw out my boneyard first. Then I will hit my fear totem, so that way we can get the fears going. Throw out the wall of elements, so that way they get the crushing enchant. Swap to the front bar. Start pulling in adds. While you're pulling them in, since you do have that cooldown, make sure to bash to get your Drake's Rush procced, and then make sure to hit someone with your heroic slash so you can get the minor heroism going as well. And at that point, you will have all of your ultimate going. Every time you light attack or block or heal, you will be gaining 3 ultimate every second for 9 seconds from the hidden ulti gen buff that everyone has. With this setup, we can get about 9 ultimate regen just from our sets and stuff. With everything combined, it's probably looking more like 12 to 15 ultimate per second. So like I said, keep everything up. Your totem, graveyard, and wall of elements are going to drop off the soonest, so you might have to go back here to re-proc them, and when you do, it's a good time to make sure you proc your armor and your spirit mender. Once again, also make sure you get your potion, do your bashing and your heroic slash. And if there's any corpses on the ground, you can start sucking them. And there we go. We have our first ultimate, and I'm not even trying hard on this guy. Now, he's not attacking me, so I'm going to have to light attack if I want to get everything proccing here. But I'm just going to do a little demonstration. I think I might have procced my potion a little early there. I don't think I saw the burst, so I should have waited like I had said to you guys before. That is a habit that is going to be kind of difficult if you're already used to doing rotations. There's our next ultimate right there. But hopefully this next time, since it's in my mind, it will be a little easier. Make sure to get your bodies and everything, of course. Okay, waited a second. There we go. Now we're getting very close. There's our ultimate right there. Now, like I said, we don't have any extra adds in here. It is just the bodies that I am producing, which my graveyard also eats. There might be an add-on that tells you when your set is ready to proc again. I don't have one and I am unaware of one, but if there is, let me know down in the comments, because it would be very nice to know when your Drake's Rush is going to be ready to proc. Oh, there we go. Now that is the other thing. If you proc your potion right when your ulti is ready to go, it is kind of a waste. You might want to proc your ulti first and then make your potion proc, because that extra burst that it gives can put you way over the top, and you might have an extra like 200 ultimates. So you're wasting quite a bit. As far as the skills go, these are the actual skills I use on my normal day-to-day necromancer tank. It is still very viable for all endgame content, and like I said, all the sets that we are using except for Bloodspawn will actually be benefiting your group as well, so everyone is going to be gaining ultimate like crazy. As far as survivability, Ember dies quite quickly. I am able to sustain quite easily. The scythe is way more than enough to be able to sustain on your own. Spirit Mender adds in a nice little trickle, and so does the Soul Suck. So guys, as you can see on this front thing, we got the 79% uptime with major vulnerability. Our regen says it is about 9.7 for our ultimate every second. I do not know if that includes your light attack regen. If it doesn't, then that would be about 12. If it is, then that should be about our ultimate regen. However, it is more of a burst, since we do have the Arkasis and the major heroism going for 2/3 of the time. We actually procced the Colossus enough that it actually did 21% of our total DPS. We actually had enough hits with it that it was our #1 thing, which is not common with tanks at all. Usually you don't see your ultimate actually being up there. So on this here, we are not filtering specifically on the boss. We actually had major vulnerability up 57% of the time for every single person. It was more for the actual boss since I was targeting him with the ultimate, but we were throwing that thing out quite a bit. Now the fight, as you can see at the top corner, was about 6 minutes. And then on this page here, as you can see on the time there, it's about 21.5 seconds in between my average time of when I'm throwing out my ultimate there, which is quite good. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. This build was actually quite surprising to me when I saw how many ultimates I was putting out, and the fact that this will actually be providing all of that ultimate regen to your group as well. So dungeon running is going to be insane with this build. And it does have enough setup where it is actually viable to do harder content. You still have all these skills that you normally would otherwise. So guys, if there's any other sets that you would like me to try out, or any build theories that you have that you'd like to see, please let me know down in the comments. I always love making unique builds that aren't exactly meta. It always adds something unique to this game. I feel like we need to focus more on what's actually fun versus trying to get a very similar build on all classes. Please like and subscribe if you guys want to see more of this content, and hit that bell if you want to get notified for whenever I release an episode. And with Starfield around the corner, I am thinking about trying to expand to that and seeing what we can do with that game as well, in addition to ESO. I've never done lore videos before, and since that is a new game, that is a route that I am looking at possibly doing, depending on how it is set up. If you guys have any other ideas for what type of Starfield videos you would like to expect, please let me know down in the comments. Hope you guys enjoy the video, and I will see you guys next time.